Today's the day. I'm going to get solar panels up on that roof and replace that ancient one that doesn't work, and hopefully we'll have power without having to run a generator. And I did a bit of tidy up, and I now have this monster of a table saw, which is yeah, quite a monster. So I have a few of these joiners. These joining pieces fit together in the rails like this. One in this plane, one in that plane. You tighten them up, and they've got these little washers that dig into the aluminium. You can only use those once, so it's all this is all just finger tight. So I need one rail to make 1185 millimeters, and this is and this gives me 2645 millimeters. So yeah, I can cut this with this extender on one piece. I can cut it in half. I'll have enough for 2 rails with a little bit left over. So I'm good. Back to plan A. And another small problem seems that these pieces of rail, they have not really been cut very clean. If it doesn't butt up nicely against the other rail, it's not really going to support it properly. You know, it needs to have a good butt joint. And this one looks like it was cut by some idiot with a chainsaw. So I'm going to trim a little bit off the end of this one, make it nice and square. And there we have it. I've got 6 rails, 13 20 millimeters long, so they're a bit longer than necessary, but it'll make installation easier. And a couple of bits left over, which look like very useful fences on a router table, or I'm sure I can find a use for that. This here, it's a very old solar panel that I actually made a long time ago in my travels around South America. And that truck, see down there in the quebrada, that used to be a camper, and it used to have 3 of those panels on the roof. Anyway, it lasted a few years. It's completely broken now. Water got in it and it cracked. But it lasted, what, 5 years? Okay, I'll just take that off now. Install rails for the new panels. Yeah, so this is where the old wires came through for the original solar panel. So I used the same hole in the roof, only a junction box on it with something sticky and oily on the back of it to stop any water coming in, assuming it ever rains around here. There you can see the one I joined. We'll put that in the middle so that nobody can see it. And that's it. You see the junction box just at the top corner. Guess what I found in the bottom of the packing? This is the high voltage or high current fuse that is supposed to be here, which is in the middle of the panel. Because these panels are built as a double panel. Look at them, I mean, they're huge. And this links the 2 of them together. So obviously this panel isn't going to work without that. And this is just kind of fatigued and fallen off. It might be repairable. But yeah, a little bit of a close up here. We'll see. Well, I have one other panel, so we'll be trying to install that tomorrow. Okay, here we go, ready for the lift. So there's a couple of 2x4s just to give it some space between the panel and the railings, so I can slide it up the 2x4s, then turn the 2x4s edgeways on, and they are then taller than the height of the rails on the roof, so nothing will catch and everything's free. On the other side of the workshop, you see there's a rope that goes up and over the roof. So on the other side of the workshop I have a ratchet, because, you know, I'm old, I don't want to lift anything heavy. A ladder, just to guide the cable up, or to guide the rope up over the shingles, and a little bit of packing on the roof. And yeah, just slowly, carefully ratchet it up and check as we go. And it's up, bolted down onto the roof. That's a big panel. There you can see how I've been pulling it up from the other side. It's not connected yet, so I'll be going to have a tea break and then I'll do that. Because believe it or not, weather's a little crappy today. You know, it's supposed to be beginning of summer in this part of the world where it hardly ever rains, but it's something to do with an Englishman working outside. Makes it rain. And of course that, you know, these are solar panels which need sunshine, so we're not going to get any. So just as a quick test, wires dangling off the roof, coming in up to where the inverter is, plugged into the panel, and I don't know if you can see this, but it's now charging, and it's doing 130 watts. This is on a cloudy day with a panel that does not point straight at the roof. Sorry, point straight at the sun. So, you know, it's what I expected. It ain't brilliant, but it's something. Hopefully the sun will come out. There you go, job done. The first panel at least. So there's another one of those to go on. That'll be on the other side, but first I have to fix it. So back in the workshop after a trip to Santiago and back, because, well, amongst other things, one of these panels is broken. And you get a closer look at that. This piece in the middle, well, basically it fell off. So checking it with a meter, and it has a, I thought it was a fuse, but it's not, because it has a forward voltage on it. So it's actually a diode. So I went and found from a like electrical components supplier a couple of 20 amp 50 volt diodes. So I'm going to repair this, because the logistics of getting it back and getting it changed are a bit difficult, and see if we can fix it. So pulling it apart, it's got one of these inside that little housing, which is it's a 1500 volt diode, rectifier diode, because these panels are designed to be put into very large strings, which, you know, you could well have 1500 volt on it. But as I'm only putting one panel up on each side, I don't need anything that big, which is great because these were my replacement parts. Now, these are reasonably chunky. These are 20 amp 50 volt Schottky diodes. Should be more than enough that I need. In fact, I should be able to do it with just one of these, but I bought three. Always good to have spares. And that housing that it was in, just once I pulled the diode out of it and scraped out all the silicon, I can reuse that to protect these, fill it with silicon and seal it up, so it'll keep the weather out. Or at least that's the plan. There we go, that's the finished repair. It's got a polyurethane sealant on it. It's probably a bit better than the silicon that was there. And it's all kind of weather tight. There's the rails installed on the roof. Get some lunch, and now this afternoon we'll lift the panel up. few visitors to my little corner of Chile. The locals who own these horses are up in the hills. This time of year there's more grazing down here, so they bring them down and they let them loose. This is a panel on the east side on another cold and grey morning. You walk round, you can see the panel on the west. So between the two of them, we've kind of extended the sun hours on these panels, but obviously decreases the efficiency of the panels. But together they should be fine. And we now have enough power in this workshop to do some more interesting things. There's the inverter working away quietly in the corner. The solar combiner is all wired up, so each panel is on its own breaker. I can isolate them if I need to. And that's it. So that's the end of this video. It's cold and grey outside, so I'm going to do some workshop things today.